When I opened my front door that night, I thought I had been robbed until I saw the note. My entire house was stripped bare. No sofa, no fridge, not even a single fork left behind. The floorboards still showed marks where my furniture used to stand like ghosts of my life. And taped to the wall, written in my brother's handwriting, were the words, "We need it more than you do. Thanks." I stood there holding that note, my heart pounding, but my face calm. 3 days later, he called me crying, begging me to stop what I'd already set in motion. I'm Elena Ward, 41 years old, and for most of my life I believed hard work could hold a family together. I live in Denver in a small 2-story home with white shutters and a lemon tree out front. My weekdays used to run like clockwork spreadsheets, coffee breaks, traffic on I-25, dinner for one. People said I was steady, the one who always had things figured out. Maybe that's why after our parents died, everyone assumed I'd take care of my younger brother Ethan. I was 24 then, barely paying my own bills, but I signed the papers, became his guardian, and promised myself he'd never feel like an orphan. For the next decade, I worked through weekends, picked up night shifts, skipped vacations, and poured every spare dollar into his future. I paid his tuition, bought him his first car, even covered his wedding when he married Sophie. I remember standing in the back of the church, exhausted but proud, watching them dance under fairy lights I'd paid for. It felt like every sacrifice had been worth it. After the wedding, Sophie started dropping by my house, always smiling, always asking, "Can I borrow this for a few days?" First, it was a purse, then shoes, then a jacket I'd saved months to buy. She never returned anything. When I asked about it, she'd laugh. "You're doing so well, Elena. You don't even miss it." Ethan would just nod, avoid my eyes. I told myself not to make it a big deal, family doesn't keep score. But over time, I started feeling like a storage unit instead of a sister. Every visit left me a little emptier, like she was taking more than just things. One afternoon, she asked about the furniture in my living room, running her hand along the armrest. "You'll replace it soon, right?" she said casually. I smiled, but something cold flickered inside me. I didn't know it then, but that moment her fingertips on my couch was the beginning of the end. It started with small things missing, clothes, borrowed dishes, but by spring, the tension had a pulse of its own. Sophie stopped pretending to ask. She'd walk through my house like it was a store, touching frames, testing cushions, saying things like, "You always buy the nicest stuff." I tried to laugh it off, but each visit left me uneasy. Ethan rarely came alone anymore. When he did, he talked about how expensive everything's gotten and how some people have it easier. I didn't like the way he said it. I didn't like realizing he meant me. One Saturday, Sophie showed up while I was cooking. She leaned on the counter, eyeing my new navy jacket hanging on a chair. "Can I borrow that for dinner tonight?" she asked. I kept stirring the pot. "You still have my gray one?" I said. "I haven't seen it in months." She rolled her eyes. "It's probably in my closet somewhere." "Relax." I looked at her, really looked this time, her manicured hand on my countertop, the smirk playing on her mouth. Something inside me snapped into focus. "No, Sophie, you can't borrow this one." The silence that followed was sharp. Ethan came in holding a grocery bag and froze. "What's going on?" he asked. Sophie crossed her arms. "Your sister thinks I'm a thief." I opened my mouth, then closed it. "I just want my things back," I said quietly. Ethan sighed. "Come on, Lena. Don't make this awkward. It's just clothes." That word just hung between us like a slap. After they left, I sat on the couch, staring at the jacket I'd refused to lend. For the first time, my own home didn't feel like mine. Weeks passed, and they stopped visiting. I thought maybe that was a good thing. A month later, I finally saved enough to renovate my house. New floors, new furniture, new appliances. I was proud every piece chosen by me paid in full. The delivery guys laughed when they saw how spotless the place was. "You treat this house like a museum," one said. I smiled. "Because it's all I have." When the work was done, I called Ethan. I just upgraded everything. "Do you and Sophie want my old set? It's all still in good shape." I heard muffled voices in the background, Sophie saying something under her breath. Ethan cleared his throat. "She says we don't need your junk." I forced a laugh. "Okay, no problem." But after hanging up, I sat in silence for a long time. That word again, junk. My hard work, My care, my history dismissed like trash. I told myself to let it go. I told myself family says things they don't mean. The next morning, I left for work like always. I remember locking the door twice, feeling the click under my fingers. I didn't know it would be the last time that lock meant safety. The first thing I noticed was the silence. My neighborhood was usually alive by 5 dogs barking, sprinklers hissing, but that evening everything was still. I remember juggling my keys, humming to myself, thinking about dinner. Then I saw it. The front door. The lock hung crooked metal, bent like it had been pried open. Inside, the air felt wrong, emptier somehow. My living room looked like a photo someone had erased. The new couch, the rug, the TV, the lamps gone. My kitchen was stripped bare. Even the silverware drawer had been emptied, forks and knives replaced by dust. I walked through each room, slowly refusing to believe what my eyes were showing me. Every sound, my shoes on the floor, the creak of a hinge echoed too loud. On the wall, a small note flapped in the breeze from the open window. It was taped above a clean rectangle of paint where a picture frame used to hang. I knew the handwriting instantly. "We need it more than you do." "Thanks," signed Ethan. I stared at those words until they blurred. It wasn't the theft that broke me. It was the entitlement behind it, the certainty that I'd just understand, that I'd forgive, that I'd keep paying. My knees felt weak, but I didn't fall. I folded the note, slid it into my purse, and took a slow breath. Mrs. Green, my elderly neighbor, appeared on the porch. "Elena, honey, are you all right?" she asked. Her voice trembled. I told her everything was fine, but my throat was tight. She shook her head. "I saw a moving truck here this afternoon. I thought you were donating furniture." I closed my eyes. "Did you see who it was?" "Your brother," she whispered. "He said you told him to take whatever he needed. I'm so sorry." Mrs. Green went home and returned with a flash drive. My security camera caught it all. I held that tiny drive like it was gold. Proof. Finally, proof. That night, I didn't sleep. I took photos of everything: the broken lock, the empty rooms, the scratches on the floor where the fridge had been dragged out. I lined up receipts, warranty papers, bank statements. I created a folder titled Evidence. My hands shook the whole time, but not from fear, from focus. The next morning, I sat across from my lawyer, Mr. Adler. He listened quietly as I told him everything. When I slid the note across his desk, he picked it up with 2 fingers, raised an eyebrow, and said, "Well, that's bold." I nodded. "They have 3 days to return it, all right?" He smiled slightly. 3 days exactly. Then we move forward. Back home, I opened my banking app and scrolled to the automatic transfer labeled Mortgage Support. Ethan, $1,000 every month for over a year. My thumb hovered, then pressed cancel. A small notification appeared. Transfer stopped. I sat there staring at the screen, breathing steady. For 17 years, I had taken care of my brother. That night, for the first time, I took care of myself. Before bed, I slipped the folded note into a drawer. I wasn't going to destroy it. Not yet. I wanted to remember exactly how it felt to stand in my own home and read my brother's handwriting telling me I didn't deserve what was mine. He had 3 days. That's all. Day 1 passed without a call. I watched the clock strike midnight and realized Ethan had made his choice. Day 2, I sent him a short message, "You have until tomorrow." No reply. By the morning of the 3rd day, I stopped hoping for one. I printed every receipt, labeled every photo, and placed the flash drive from Mrs. Green on top. The evidence looked small, but heavy like the truth itself. At exactly 9 a.m., I called Mr. Adler. "They've ignored the deadline," I said. "Then we file the report," he replied. By noon, 2 police officers stood on my porch, taking notes as I walked them through the empty rooms. They photographed the note, bagged it as evidence, and nodded. "We'll pay them a visit," one officer said. An hour later, I sat in my car down the street from Ethan's house, my hands gripping the steering wheel. A police SUV pulled into their driveway. From where I parked, I could see the scene unfold. Sophie appeared at the door, hair messy, clutching a robe. Ethan stood behind her, pale, arguing with the officers. One of them held up the note sealed in plastic. Sophie's expression changed instantly from anger to panic. She covered her mouth and disappeared inside. The other officer gestured toward the moving truck, still parked beside their house. He opened it. My furniture was inside every piece, even the damn forks. For a second, I almost laughed. They hadn't even tried to hide it. My phone buzzed. Ethan. I let it ring twice before answering. "What did you do?" he shouted. "I did exactly what I said I would," I replied. "They're taking us in. You're ruining our lives." "You had 3 days," I said quietly. "You ruined your own." Behind his voice, I could hear Sophie crying, telling him to fix it to beg me. He didn't. He hung up. Later that afternoon, Mr. Adler called. They're being detained for questioning. The police found everything. Excellent work documenting Elena. Excellent work. I repeated those words softly as if testing them. For once, they didn't mean sacrifice. They meant victory. The trial was set 2 weeks later. I didn't want to see Ethan again, but part of me needed to. I needed him to witness what it looked like when someone refused to be walked over anymore. The courtroom smelled of varnish and cold coffee. Sophie sat at the defense table, her hands twisting in her lap. Ethan looked thinner eyes darting around like a trapped animal. When the judge entered, everyone stood. My pulse stayed steady. Mr. Adler opened his folder, placed the flash drive on the desk, and said, "Your Honor, Exhibit A." The screen flickered to life. The footage showed Ethan and Sophie hauling my refrigerator, my dining table, my life, laughing while they did it. The courtroom went silent except for the sound of the truck door slamming shut. Then came the note. The judge read it aloud. "We need it more than you do." "Thanks." He looked up unimpressed. "Charming," he muttered. Ethan lowered his head. Sophie's face crumpled. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't raise my voice. I raised him after our parents died. I paid for his education, his wedding, his house, and he still decided that what was mine should be his. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because no one, not even family, gets to take from me again. The judge's gavel struck once sharp as a gunshot. Guilty. Probation for 1 year restitution in full and a fine of $1,500 each, all property to be returned immediately. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Ethan caught up to me. His voice cracked. "Lena, please, we can fix this." I turned to him. "You had 17 years of me fixing things for you. You're on your own now." Sophie wiped her eyes. "We're sorry. We made a mistake." I nodded. "Yes, you did. And now you get to live with it." I walked away before either of them could speak again. The next morning, I met Mr. Adler again. "I need to update my will," I said. He raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. When the paperwork was ready, I signed it. Everything I owned, the house, the savings, the retirement fund, would go to a scholarship foundation for orphans, children who actually needed it more than Ethan ever did. 2 days later, Adler sent the legal notice to Ethan. It didn't take long. That evening, someone started pounding on my front door. I looked through the peephole. "Ethan and Sophie." "You changed your will," Ethan yelled. "You're serious." "Completely," I said through the chain lock. "I'm your only family. You stopped being that the day you broke into my house." Sophie stepped forward, eyes red. "We're having a baby, Lena. Don't you care about your niece or nephew?" I hesitated for half a second, then said, "I hope you raised them better than you were raised." Ethan's hand hit the door. "You owe me," I laughed, bitter and soft. "I owe you nothing. I raised you, fed you, gave you everything you ever wanted, and you thanked me by robbing me blind." "We said we're sorry," Sophie cried. "No," I said, voice steady. "You're sorry you got caught." They stood there speechless. I closed the door, turned the deadbolt, and for the first time in my life, didn't look back. That night, I sat in my living room. The furniture returned everything in its place. It looked exactly as before, but it felt different, stronger. Mine. I poured myself a glass of wine, opened my laptop, and booked a 2-week trip to Hawaii. The confirmation email popped up almost instantly. "Congratulations, your vacation is confirmed." For years, I had built my life around taking care of someone else. Now, for the first time, I was taking care of me. As I closed my laptop, my phone buzzed with a message from Ethan Please. "Just talk to me." I stared at it for a long time before deleting it without reading the rest. 3 days after the court ruling, my phone rang again. I almost didn't answer until I saw Ethan's name. His voice broke the moment I said hello. "Please, Lena, we're sorry. We lost everything. I'll bring it all back. Just drop the charges." Behind him, Sophie was crying, begging into the receiver. "We can't pay the fines. We'll lose the house." "Please." For a moment, I said nothing. I looked around at my living room, my couch, my photos, my peace, and felt something settle inside me. "You already brought everything back," I said quietly. "What's gone now isn't mine to fix." He kept talking, promising to do better, to start over. I let him. When he ran out of words, I said only, "You made your choices." "So did I." Then I hung up. That night, I slept with the windows open for the first time since the break-in. The air smelled like rain and lemon blossoms from the tree outside. No footsteps, no fear, just quiet. The next week, I installed a full security system: cameras, motion sensors, alarms. It wasn't about paranoia. It was about claiming safety as something I'd earned. When the technician asked if I wanted remote alerts to my phone, I smiled. No need. I'm finally home. I started saying yes to things I used to put off. Melissa, my closest friend, convinced me to try a pottery class downtown. I found myself laughing, covered in clay, feeling younger than I had in years. One evening after class, she said, "You seem lighter." I nodded, because I stopped carrying people who wanted to drag me down. Each day felt like a quiet reclaiming. I cooked dinner with music on again. I bought fresh flowers for the kitchen table Ethan once called too expensive. I even caught myself humming while I cleaned. It wasn't happiness exactly, it was something steadier. Peace. One morning, I opened my calendar and circled the date of my Hawaii trip. 2 weeks away. The ocean, the silence, the space to breathe. It felt like more than a vacation. It felt like a rebirth. The phone rang again that afternoon. I didn't answer this time. I let it buzz until it stopped. When the silence returned, it felt sacred. Hawaii was everything I'd hoped it would be: warm air, blue water, no voices I recognized. I spent mornings walking the beach, barefoot, coffee in hand, watching the sun pull itself over the horizon. No alarms, no guilt, just the sound of waves and my own heartbeat finally slowing down. One evening, I sat on the balcony of my hotel, the sky painted gold, and thought about everything I'd lost and everything I'd gained. They had taken every object that could be carried out of my house, but not my strength, not my peace. That was something they could never steal. For the first time, I wasn't someone's caretaker, provider, or safety net. I was just me, Elena, whole. As I packed to go home, I looked at the folded note I'd kept in my suitcase. I smiled, then dropped it into the hotel trash can. The sound it made was small, but final. Have you ever had to walk away to find peace? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to know your story.